Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Christine Nino. I work here in the Central Grad Admissions Office, and I'm really excited to invite a host of panelists to join us from across the university to talk about programs in the health professions. I love seeing where people are joining from, what programs you're interested in, so please continue to throw those into the chat. In a bit, we'll turn off the chat and then open up the Q&A box. So if you have questions throughout today's session, please do put those in the Q&A. And we'll work to make sure we get to those either live with our panelists or April on our team will answer those chats for you. Few reminders, housekeeping items. Today's session is recorded, which you just heard. So you will receive a recording of today's session in a follow-up email. In that email, you'll also have access to respond directly to our team. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to respond to that email directly. And a chance to provide some feedback or in a survey. So we encourage you to fill that out. And so with that, the way things will run today is we've got our three panelists from the Grossman School of Medicine, the Meyers College of Nursing, and from Global Public Health. And so each person will give a brief overview of their program. I'll share some slides as they talk through those, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. I've got a list of prepared questions, but please do utilize that Q&A box and we'll be sure to answer those questions. And so the first person that will have do their introduction and overview is Carrie from the Grossman School of Medicine. So Carrie, I've got your slides so I can share those for you and you can just talk through them. So thanks for joining us and you can take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Carrie Boudou. I'm the Director of Admissions and Financial Aid here at NYU Grossman School of Medicine. So nice to see all of you. I just want to kind of introduce the program a little bit and provide some guidance of what this slide says. So obviously, if you're interested in the School of Medicine, you're interested in becoming a medical doctor. There are two different applications. You have to apply for your primary application, which is done through the AAMC, which requires a bachelor's degree from the US or Canada, your MCAT exam. We actually do not have any required prereqs, letters of recommendation, and then we do send you a secondary application where there are 4 written essays, and you must upload your resume or your CV, and then there is an online application fee. There also is a optional application where if you're interested in one of our residency programs within NYU Grossman School of Medicine, you can apply early. If you are accepted into the program, you would get an interview with, say, the orthopedics department to see if you have a direct progression residency slot once you're complete with your medical degree. Some deadlines are October 15th for the primary application, and our secondary deadline is November 15th. I put our websites on here, and then also a big point of, Grossman School of Medicine is our full tuition scholarships that we offer to all of our MD students. And then just 2 years ago, we increased it to also award need-based debt-free scholarships for those students who are financially needy and have needs beyond tuition. And then finally, we also have a limited number of full cost attendance scholarships. That is just kind of a brief overview, and happy to answer any questions. So thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Carrie. I appreciate that. And again, if you have questions for Carrie, please drop those in and we'll get to those as we go through. Joseph, I think I've got you slotted next. So if you want to give an overview of the Rory Meyers College of Nursing, that would be great.
Definitely. Thank you, Christy. So here at NYU Meyers, we are the graduate and doctoral program for the School of Nursing. Some fun fact about our program, we are the first nursing PhD program in the country, and we offer 3 different programs. We have our Master's and Advanced Certificate program, and we offer 2 doctoral degrees, one which is research-based and one which is a Doctor of Nursing practice. So to be eligible to apply for our master's and advanced certificate programs, we ask that you have a bachelor's in nursing or a bachelor's in a non-nursing field together with an associate's degree in nursing with a minimum GPA of 3.0 and a New York State nursing license or an out-of-state nursing license at the time of application submission. If you are admitted and you choose to enroll in our program, you would have to show evidence of New York State nursing licensure. And we do look for at least 1 year full-time clinical experience as a registered nurse prior to beginning graduate coursework, and that you've taken a basic statistics and a basic research course at the undergraduate level. Now, for our PhD in nursing research theory and development, we ask that you have a bachelor's degree in nursing or a bachelor's and a master's in nursing with a minimum GPA of 3.0 and the ability to demonstrate professional performance and contribution to the field of nursing as evidenced or showcased by research efforts, publications, presentations, anything along that sort that can showcase your potential as a nurse scientist. And for our Doctor of Nursing practice, we have three pathways, post BS to DNP, our advanced standing if you already have a master's degree, or advanced certificate to DNP. We ask that you have a master's degree or at least a bachelor's in nursing, the New York State nursing licensure, and that you're a certified NP, either acute care, primary care, psychiatric mental health, or a certified nurse midwife, and that you've taken a graduate coursework in statistics and research as well. So one of the fun facts that I like to also highlight here at NYU Myers, and many, if I think a few of you on the call are nurses, that here at NYU Myers, you do not have to go out and find clinical placements. We utilize our relationship with NYU Langone and other healthcare sites around the tri-state area to place you. I'm sure many of you have heard horror stories from students in other programs that they're left in the lurch trying to find anyone that will be willing to take them on for that semester. Here at NYU, you won't have that issue. That's something that we're very proud of, and that we maintain contact with a lot of our alumni to take that burden off of our graduate students.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for that overview. And then next, let me swap the slides here, and I'll have Simon take it away and talk about global public health.
Hi, everyone. The School of Global Public Health is NYU is relatively new. We're in our 9th year and celebrating our decade next year. But our mission has been around for a long time and at NYU, which is to prepare public health professionals to solve global public health challenges. And public health is a science-based interdisciplinary field, which is really focusing on preventative health. And unlike medicine and nursing that you've heard about, public health kind of focuses more on the health of entire populations rather than individual patients. And so when you're a public health professional, you're tackling lots of different challenges, such as, tracking disease outbreaks, vaccinations, setting safety standards, developing nutrition programs, and getting involved in policy and trying to influence government policy in public health. That's just a few of the many different ways you can take a public health degree. We are accredited, of course. We're ranked top 20 school in the US. We're ranked highly for NIH-funded research. We're at about almost 1,000 graduate students in total, pursuing a range of different programs. We have also undergraduate students doing majors here. We have 160 faculty. We're in a very new building in downtown Manhattan, NoHo area, very close to the Washington Square main campus. Next slide, please. So all our programs are full admission only, but they can be taken full-time or part-time. And there are also online options too. And some of our programs are fully online. But here's the overview of the kind of different disciplinary areas we offer: biostats, community health science, environmental public health science, epidemiology, global health, public health nutrition, public health policy and management, social and behavioral sciences, and bioethics. And as you can see in this chart, some of these disciplines lead to different degrees. Most of them lead towards an MPH, but we also have specialized master's programs, MS and MA, in certain areas, and some go on to full PhDs. Okay. And a key thing to think about when you're investing in a graduate education is, what are the outcomes? And, we're very transparent about the kind of how what our graduates go on to do. 99% of them are employed by the end, and they're in a variety of sectors. So, in public health, you can work in nonprofit areas, you can work for government, you can work for NGOs, foundations, you can work for for-profit, pharmaceutical companies and others, as well as academic institutions and research hospitals. And so, yeah, our graduates equally go into these very diverse pathways into different industries. For admission, it's relatively straightforward. Applicants have to apply through a common application system called SOFAS. And everyone who applies must have a US bachelor's degree or in their senior year at least. There's no specific prerequisite courses. There's no minimum GPA. There's no minimum work experience. You can have you can have no work experience or some work experience. There's no requirement for previous public health experience. So we really encourage candidates to apply if they have an interest in public health. There is no such thing as an ideal candidate for us. We take a very holistic approach to admissions when trying to determine whether a student will benefit from the really high quality education here, and also to figure out what they can bring to the community as well. So I mentioned the SOFAS application. You have to submit all your transcripts, an international transcript evaluation from WES if you've earned your degree outside the US. There's a personal statement or a statement of purpose, really, that you have to submit, a resume, TOEFL may be required, and 3 letters of recommendation. And the important thing to know is there's no GRE. GRE is not required for any of our programs. And the priority deadline for applying is February 1st for next fall. We, of course, offer scholarships. These are merit-based and competitive scholarships that are awarded by the school. They're available to all candidates, and it's very much based on the merit that's been assigned to your application by our faculty admissions committee. We encourage people to apply by February 1st if they want to be considered for a scholarship. And then students are supporting themselves in other ways, of course, federal direct aid, private loans, on-campus employment, and then there are some specific programs like Coverdell Fellows for Peace Corps and Yellow Ribbon for veterans.
Great. Thank you, Simon, for that overview. And thank you all for providing the context of admissions requirements and some general information about your programs. I've got some prepared questions as well, so I'll dive into those. And again, encourage everyone in attendance, if you have questions, to please send them in. But my first question was something that we saw while we were recruiting this season, questions about the holistic nature of the application review process. Particularly in the health profession field. So the questions that we're getting is, how much time should applicants be spending during their time as undergrad or just after undergrad to highlight their experience, and what do you rank as the most important? So is it volunteer work? Is it shadowing? Is it research opportunities? If people have a finite amount of time, so where should they be focusing their energy when they're working on things outside their transcripts, for example, to support and strengthen their application in your particular schools? So anyone can start with this one. Any takers?
Definitely internships are useful for us to look at, even if they're not connected to public health, because we know that sometimes students don't make that decision to apply until fairly far through their undergraduate degree, so their internship may be in something else. But internship is definitely important, and also any kind of extracurricular stuff, being involved in student clubs as well. That's really important for somebody who's applying straight out of college.
And I can jump in and speak to prospective graduate nursing candidates. So say if you, there are a wide variety of specializations that you can pursue. So say if you are interested in nurse midwifery or psychiatric mental health, if you have any specific experience during your undergrad rotations in those areas, we invite you to speak about it in your personal statement or highlight that on your resume, and really go in detail about what you learned during those experiences and convey that to the admissions committee. That would be a big help. In addition to clinical experiences, if you've volunteered in any of those areas as an undergraduate student or even after you've graduated, or if you were involved in any sort of extracurricular activities. If you are interested in nurse anesthesia, you are part of the nurse anesthesia interest group while an undergrad student. That's definitely a great way to highlight your interest in that particular graduate field.
And then just for students who are interested in applying to the School of Medicine, I would say all of the categories kind of listed are definitely important or part of the application, volunteer experience, extracurricular research. But what the committee does like to see is kind of why your decision to go into medicine. Especially if you have prior experience in, say, another field, they really want to show your true interest in wanting to go to medical school. So whether that be through volunteer work in clinical settings or shadowing, or even, interest in research, I think it's important to show that you have, a true drive for medicine and that career path. But of course, as Simon and Joseph said, other things are also important, what you spend your other time doing, extracurriculars, athletics, volunteer hours, all of that is also important.
Thanks. That's really helpful. And I want to add on or piggyback off of something you said in terms of the why in determining why the program is right for you or why that field. In addition to hands-on experience, are there other things that applicants should consider or ways that folks can start to determine if a graduate program at your particular schools is right for them? What are advice for people who are on the fence or sort of at the beginning of their career exploration process? What are things to factor in? Who should they speak to? Sort of what insights you have for people who are trying to determine if a graduate program is right for them?
Yes, it's a difficult decision, isn't it? Figuring out what graduate program to apply to and whether it's going to be useful for you. And I encourage people to try to network with folks who already work in an area that you're interested in. Whether that's through your career services, alumni networks, personal networks, friend of a friend of a friend, to set up an informational kind of interview where you can learn about what they do. That's a great way to start gathering information, figure out like if it's something that you're interested in, it's a job you would like to do one day, find out how they got there. What did they do? What kind of credentials were considered important in their field? That's a great way to start, I think, is just by networking.
Yeah, thank you. I usually give the advice to most often to undergrads, but to anybody, to don't be afraid to reach out to people on LinkedIn. It's amazing how many people are willing to talk about themselves if you just give them the opportunity. And that's really sometimes the best way to figure out if the field is right for you is to talk to people who are doing it and get a better sense of, what their day-to-day looks like, but also what degree they have to get them to where they are. And is that the right degree for you? And what are the skills that they really need from that degree? So I think that's really good advice. Joseph and Carrie, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I would definitely like to echo Simon's sentiment in trying to network as much as possible. I always recommend all of our prospective students reach out to our program directors if they have any particular interest in, say, acute care, primary care, to reach out to them. They're always happy to set up a 10-minute phone call, and they're there to bounce ideas off of potential career paths and happy to provide their input to see if that chosen field would be right for them.
And just adding to, everyone's comments, where students find the most help is actually our student ambassadors. We have medical student ambassadors who, work very closely with our admissions office. We do virtual campus visits and that type of thing, but they do have an email address called Ask an Ambassador. I'll put it in the chat at the end of the session, but they are extremely helpful to just hear, they went through the same process, not too long ago as you. And I think it's really great to kind of hear their process through the application, cycle, why they decided to go into medicine, why they decided NYU. So I think that's a really great help as well.
Thanks, Carrie. Thank you all for that. I think that's great insight. And in addition to ambassadors, which I think a lot of programs have. Our office has student staff as well that they're happy to chat with folks. But admission staff are such an underrated, I think, sometimes resource. I think there's, an intimidation or should I reach out? Can I ask those questions? That's what we're here for. Often we're not even the ones reviewing your application. I'm definitely not. So feel free to ask what you think might be silly questions. We're here to engage and have those conversations with you. It's better to figure it out now than halfway through your first semester, if the program was right for you. So the more time you can spend, talking to people who are in the programs, going to things like this, engaging with the programs, I think is really valuable. So thank you for that. The next question I have is partly from a question in the Q&A and one just more generally speaking. NYU is a global network university. We have campuses all over the world. So the question is particularly for global public health, but in general, if you could speak to the international population on your campus, or if you have any study away opportunities that are available to students in your program. So that's part one of the question, and then I'll address the second part in a minute. So first, just speaking a little bit to the international nature of your schools and programs, if there's opportunities for study away and what your international student population looks like, if you have that information available. Yes, Simon, you can take it away. Thank you.
Yeah,
Now you unmuted. Go for it.
There are a lot. Well, first of all, there are a lot of opportunities for study abroad here. There's a lot of short-term study abroad opportunities around the world, lots of different countries. There are a lot of international research projects going on too that you can get involved in as a student. We have a lot of what we call labs. These are kind of project-based labs that are developed around the research interests of faculty that students can get involved in. And many of those focus on international issues in certain countries, maybe to do with epidemics or all sorts of issues. And so that's another international component. And then our international, our campus itself has a lot of international students from lots of different countries. I think we had 44 different countries represented in this entering class this fall. So the global is in the name of the school, and I think we're global in all those different ways, which does reflect, the fact that public health it's a global challenge.
Thanks, Simon. Go ahead, Carrie.
So we also have a lot of study abroad opportunities. We have programs, called International Health Program, which is part of our global health initiatives, where students can decide to do a 6 to 8 week research project, in all these different countries that they choose to go to. So there's a lot of opportunities to kind of do what you want during that time. We do have a 3-year MD curriculum, so sometimes there isn't a whole lot of time to do that study abroad, but there is a 6 to 8 week period where it is suggested, to do that if that is what you're going to choose to do. In terms of our kind of requirements, we do accept international applicants, but we do ask all of our applicants to have a bachelor's degree from either the United States or Canada. With that being said, our incoming class, I believe we had, people from 6 or 7 different countries. So not as many as the Global Health School, but trying to, broaden the amount of countries that are represented in our incoming class as possible.
And here at Meyers, we are actually in the middle of expanding our global study away opportunities. Most of our graduate student body are going to school part-time and working full-time as registered nurses. So the semester-long opportunities aren't really there for most of our graduate students, but we do offer a number of short-term courses that are usually in the 2 to 3 week range. And currently we're offering opportunities in Abu Dhabi and Accra, Ghana, that you have the opportunity to take 2 of our graduate core courses in each of those cities. And we are currently working on expanding that as well to undergraduate students and our doctoral students. And usually our graduate and doctoral students also have opportunities to work on a number of international research projects with faculty as well. And as for international student demographics, it does get a little bit challenging due to the fact that we require New York State registered nursing licensure by the time you start classes. But for applicants who have already established residency here and are already working as a registered nurse, they're easily able to come in and join our program. We also are working to uh, increase the number of international students in our program.
Awesome. That's really helpful. Thank you all for sharing that. And kind of sort of related, switching gears a little bit to talk about scholarships. I know Carrie and Simon, you talked a little bit in your opening about scholarships. So Joseph, if you could elaborate on scholarship availability and options at Meyers, but then also specifically the questions were about application fee waivers. So if you could all shed some light on that. And then if you offer any scholarships or funding for any of the study away opportunities that you spoke about. So Joseph, I'll have you start and share a little bit about financial aid and how that works, scholarships work at Meyers, and then we'll transition. Thanks.
Yes, so once you're a student here at Meyers, every single semester, all of our graduate students would receive communication from our scholarship officer letting them know that our Meyers funded scholarships are available for application, as well as a number of our donor scholarships. So all students are notified at the same time, and they're welcome to apply during the application period. And they're usually are awarded after the selection process by the scholarship committee. And there are some funding available for study away opportunities for graduate and undergraduate students. All of that information is also listed on our website, so feel free to check it out for more information.
All right, thank you. Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah, so I know I mentioned, we do have a lot of scholarship opportunity for our MD students. In terms of how to apply, we do ask our incoming students to submit a FAFSA profile and also a CSS profile if they want to be if they want to see if they're eligible to receive the need-based debt-free scholarship. We do have a handful of full cost attendance scholarships, which do not require an application for that. And then application fee waivers are done through our primary application, which is the AAMC. So if you apply and receive a AAMC fee waiver, they do require you to submit some, specific paperwork. If you do receive that fee waiver, what we do is we waive our secondary fee. So that's nice there. But if anyone has any additional questions, happy to answer.
Anything to add on your end in terms of fee waivers or scholarship for study away?
So for fee waivers, unfortunately, we don't waive the application fee, and that's really because you have to apply through the SOFAST Common Application, and there's a set fee for the first school, and then smaller fees for every second, third, fourth, additional school that you're applying to, and most applicants are applying to more than one school. So just logistically, it's really difficult to waive the fee. And then in terms of scholarships, we don't have specific scholarships for study abroad. We offer merit-based scholarships at the point of admission to all applicants for MPH. And roughly, I think 50 to 60% of entering students have a scholarship. So, they're competitive. The maximum scholarship we offered last year was $45,000 for the 2-year MPH program. So, these are not full cost, full ride scholarships, but they're obviously a significant support for students, for those who we consider, merit, high merit students. And just want to emphasize that most of our students, are finding multiple funding sources. Scholarship is just one of those funding sources.
Great, thank you. That's helpful. Joseph, did you have something to add to that?
Yes, I encourage anyone who is experiencing any financial difficulty in regards to the application fee to contact us, and we can have a conversation to see if you are eligible for an application fee waiver.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you. There was also a question in the chat about fee waivers for evaluations through WISE and or WIS. My understanding is that sometimes the organization directly will offer those fee waivers for students in need. So I believe that it's best to reach out to them, the service directly. But you all can correct me if that's incorrect in terms of getting those fees sorted. The other thing I was going to add about funding and things to keep in mind, hopefully we recognize that NYU graduate school in general is an investment in your time and your resources. And one thing that we do see across all industries are the earning potential that will come with your advanced degree. For those of you in particular fields, such as, some parts of nursing, but definitely if you want to be an MD, you don't really have a way around it. But thinking about those long-term earning potentials, earning potential is one factor in the overall decision-making process. And then for many students at the master's level, at least there are opportunities to work on campus while you're a student. We employ a lot of students in our office. I think a lot of different programs also have students who work and support their offices as a way to also help with those. So thank you all for shedding light on that. My next question is still related to the application process and wanted to ask for you to share some insight or advice or what are common mistakes that you see applicants make? And what advice would you give them to strengthen their applications? What are the things the do's and maybe try not to do this when you're seeing the applications come in? Carrie, do you want to start this off?
Yeah, I'm happy to start off. So I would say one main thing for our school specifically, for School of Medicine, is to apply early. I know sometimes, people say you can apply until the deadline, which is true, but if you apply early, it is definitely, looked upon much better. You're able to kind of have your application reviewed much earlier, not be stressed out if there's things that might delay it. So if you can, we would definitely recommend to try to apply as early as you can. In terms of mistakes, I mean, I don't see a lot of errors in like the application per se, but just, try to really showcase who you are to the admissions committee, whether that be through your essays. We have a few secondary essays that give you a more opportunity to really showcase your skills and who you are, and then really your, where you spend your time. So your experiences and really showcase those most valuable things that you've learned from related to medicine.
And I can go ahead and speak to Myers's graduate application. We always recommend applicants to utilize their personal statement to really highlight why they're choosing NYU Meyers for graduate studies rather than any other program that they're interested in. This really shows the admissions committee that you're interested in our program, and if you're able to highlight some of the things that we offer in our program, that really shows the admissions committee that you've done research into our program. And we always recommend that applicants choose recommenders that can speak to their strengths as a nurse. Meaning, if you're choosing to apply for our acute care program and you're choosing a recommender that knows you as a nurse and can speak to your strengths of working under pressure when someone is coding on the table or something like that. Those type of insights really do bring the admissions committee a lot of insight to how you be into our programs.
Anything to add on your end?
I think Carrie and Joseph covered a lot of the kind of similar things we see. I mean, I think just some really basic stuff as well, like make sure your statement of purpose doesn't accidentally mention a different school. I've seen that before, where, clearly a candidate's copy and pasted, but forgotten to take out the other school. So just little things like that, like the details. And the other mistake I've seen is sometimes because candidates see personal statement and they think, oh, well, I'm going to get really personal here, It's not like an undergraduate admission essay where you're encouraged to disclose so much about yourself, and it almost becomes like reading Great Expectations. It's like the story of your life. The professional schools, studying global public health, we were expecting you to talk mostly about your career aspirations, and how our program, the program you're choosing, leads you towards that career, even if it's a very vague idea that you have about that in the moment. We understand that everyone's got their plan laid out step by step at this stage, but making it definitely focused on your kind of preparation academically and career-based preparation and understanding of the program and where it leads you. So we can see that you've done your research on that rather than the biographical details.
Thank you. And I do think you say it's a small thing, but the details are a big thing. It's the first opportunity for the admissions committee to understand who you'll be in the classroom. And if you aren't able to nail the little things at the front, well, how is that going to manifest when you're in the classroom? So to your point, things like making sure you're changing the name on your personal statement, and even further, if you're able to copy and paste the same personal statement from one school to the other, is it really the right program for you? And so doing that time and spending the time researching the programs so that you can speak without a doubt that that's the right program and why. To some of your points, the why this program I think is really important to highlight in those personal statements. Other things that we see or hear folks share as advice is, to your point about the letters of recommendation, Joseph, giving them a lot of time to write those letters, giving them advance notice about deadlines, providing them with the information that they need. And you can even say, I'm applying to NYU for nursing. I'd really love for you to highlight my experience with you in my rotations or, in your class, and giving them a little bit of guidance so that you're helping to create and craft that well-rounded application. So I think all of those things are really good pieces of advice to keep in mind. I have a question in the chat that's related to this. I don't know if there's anything additional that you would add to this, but I'll ask it anyway. What advice do you have for applicants to make their applications stand out? Are there things that you're hearing from your admissions committees that are like, this is the thing that really stands out? Anything that comes to mind? I can't remember who just said it. Joseph, go right ahead. I think I was going to probably copy what you might be about to say.
No, I was going to mention that I know our program directors who read the applications really do enjoy seeing a clear passion for a chosen field. If they're interested in nurse midwifery and women's health, why they're choosing that. Is there a personal experience that happened either on the job or from childhood that impacted that decision? Details like that really do matter, and they look to see that.
Great, thanks for sharing that. And I do think the other things that I hear or see sometimes about how to make, piggybacking off of that, is really highlighting your passion and your ability to speak about particulars of the program or of the school. So if there's a researcher that you admire or research that's coming out of a lab or a particular clinic that you want to be a part of, I think highlighting those as your application to indicate to the admissions committee that you've done your research, that you're not just throwing out your application to 20 different schools and hoping that something sticks. So the more you're able to speak about those things, the nuances and the particulars of a program, I think are valuable. And the way you do that is by attending info sessions like this, talking to the ambassadors, hearing their experience, learning about how the school that you're interested in speaks about their programs, mirroring some of that language in your statement and trying to highlight that as you write it. Are all ways that make your application feel unique and special to the school that you're applying to, and those things help stand out. The generic applications are the ones that tend to say like, well, okay, we could take it or leave it. But I think the more you're able to really talk about why that particular school and what you're hoping to get out of it and what you're hoping to bring to it are things that will help make your application stand out a little bit. So thanks all for sharing that. A few of you have highlighted career passions, aspirations. These are all programs that are designed to get you to the next stage in your career path. That's what graduate and professional schools are about, is gearing up people for their professional journeys. So could you talk a little bit about some emerging career paths for graduates from your programs, either related to global trends or things that you're seeing in your industries, or just common career paths that folks take from your individual schools? Anyone want to start this one off? Go ahead, Carrie.
I mean, I think the most common career path is to become a medical doctor in my pathway. We do have an MD PhD program where students are become medical scientists, so there is that option as well. But there's, I think, around 40 different residency programs that you can choose. So it really depends on what your interest lies. So, if you're interested in pediatrics or surgery or OBGYN, there's just so many different options. So I think that's probably it varies from year to year of what students choose to go into. It's really based on your passion and what you see yourself doing, and you do not have to feel like coming to the school your first year that you need to make that decision right away. We offer a lot of career exploration during your first and second years here, where then you get to have experiences across all of the different residency programs to really see what you love and where you want to spend your time. So I think that's really important, is to spend the time, doing that exploration if you're not quite sure, where your passion really lies.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie.
I can echo the same sentiment for nursing. There are a number of pathways that you can choose. One thing to note here at NYU Myers, if you start any of our graduate programs, you have the option to switch into another program if you find that your particular track isn't what you do want to focus on long term. We do have a number of students who choose to switch from primary care to pediatrics because they want to work with children. They've recently figured that out, and that's completely fine and that's normal. Our Office of Advising would work with all of our graduate students who are interested in doing that. And most of our graduates do choose to become nurse practitioners in 5 or 6 different fields, such as acute care, primary care, pediatrics, family nurse practitioner, or we have a master's degree in nursing education. They realize that they want to teach specifically nursing, either in an academic setting or a professional setting, for continuing nursing education credits, things along that line. And we also offer our doctoral programs. If you are dedicated to conducting research and becoming a nurse scientist, or our doctor in nursing program, where you become a nurse practitioner, but then also get a doctoral degree focusing on leadership and implementing research and quality improvement in a medical setting. So there are a number of opportunities that our graduates choose to go for.
I think that's helpful. For both of those fields, that there's that exploratory period or the ability to change, which I think isn't common in the master's level in different schools. You're applying directly to a particular program, but it's helpful that you have that flexibility, particularly in fields where you'll spend the rest of your career most likely, because it's not so easy to change after the fact. So that's helpful. Simon,
And
anything to add to that? Oh yeah, go ahead, Joseph.
Oh, I also wanted to point out that we have a number of nurses that come back to do 2 nurse practitioner specialties. That's why we have the advanced certificate program. If you've already completed a master's degree, some realize another one would be greatly beneficial for my career. So they'll come back and do another certification to be certified in 2 different fields.
Awesome, thanks. And Simon, anything to add?
Yeah, and I should also mention that there is some crossover between medicine and nursing and public health, and that's reflected. And we do have nurses who qualified registered nurses who come and do an MPH here. There's also a dual degree MD MPH program as well, and there's details about how that works on our website. But in terms of our career outcomes, because public health is such a kind of broad field, so it's kind of hard to summarize quickly in the same way that for medicine and nursing, the career paths. But as I mentioned earlier, you can go into, and our students do go into so many different areas in private sector, nonprofit, foundations, and government. But we do have an amazing resource on our website, which is the Career Hub. I'm just going to post it in the chat because we provide lots of details about where our alumni are working in these different areas. And if you click on one of, say, public sector section, you'll see a whole list of positions and organizations that alumni work in. It's very detailed. I think just scanning that and this is just for government positions, gives you a sense of, potential pathways that are available to you. And we have the same breakdown for, private sector, which also, includes pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and so on. I think, the great thing about being in New York and being a student in New York is you're in this incredibly large city that has, major headquarters of foundations and nonprofits, and also, of course, the United Nations being here helps the World Health Organization. There's a lot of opportunities here for, for getting internships that are relevant, and then getting your foot in the door for a first position in the field.
Thanks, Simon. And that sort of leads me into or could be a leader into my final question, which I wanted to ask each of you to share a little bit about what brought you to NYU or what keeps you at NYU. What are the things about NYU and the programs specifically that you want to highlight? I think to your point, Simon, being in New York is a huge draw for a lot of students across different industries. But if there's anything else that you wanted to add to that, or Carrie, Joseph, what are the things about your programs or schools that you want to highlight or that you think are really standouts about being at NYU?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. So in terms of highlighting some things, I think NYU is really good at kind of innovating and doing new things and trying things kind of first. One thing that we recently started is a 3-year only medical degree program. So now all of our students will be able to complete their medical degree in only 3 years. With that in mind, we also offer them, we call it our personalized pathways, where they will finish in 3 years, no matter what, for your MD, but we do offer a year if they would like to focus on their research. They can take a year to do a full research or a dual degree that Simon mentioned. So we have, several links with all of the NYU graduate programs where you can do a dual degree in just 1 year and then come back and finish your MD. So in just 4 years, you can, graduate with 2 degrees, which is just, I think, really unique to NYU. And I think that's something that keeps me here is it's just always evolving. It's always changing. It's always getting better. And I think that's something to strive to see. So, yeah.
Thanks, Carrie. Joseph, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say one of the main draws for NYU as a student is that there is a real sense of community. Um, you can, at least from what I see from our current graduate students, if they have their educational background elsewhere, they see that the student body is really active. And if for some reason, when I speak to students here at Myers, if they can't find something at NYU Myers, 99% of the time they're able to find it elsewhere within the university, and they're able to get involved, either with the Central Office of Student Life or organizations at other NYU colleges. I've spoken to a number of students that have set up cross events with other colleges, and they seem to enjoy having that interaction as well.
Any last things to add before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose for our school, being a relatively new and a young school, it means there's, I think, a lot of creativity in the school, trying new ways of thinking about how we deliver the education. It's a really vibrant community here of faculty, students, and staff, all kind of working collaboratively, which I worked at a lot of different universities in my career, and this is definitely the most collaborative place I've ever worked. And I think that speaks to NYU generally. It's a very forward-looking institution. I think it's just a great place to be a student. There's so many opportunities here.
I agree. I want to echo what all of you sort of highlighted is one, that NYU is that forward-thinking institution. I've been here for a number of years in a few different capacities, and it really is a place that's looking to see what's next. And I think that's representative in its students and in the faculty that they attract. Being in New York helps. New York is a forefront for so many different industries. So having faculty who are embedded in their fields in New York, they're at the front of the field and they're bringing that into the classroom. So I think having those opportunities and networks are really helpful. And then the student body is really engaged. It's a large student body. And I think because there are so many grad students, there's a drive to create that community in New York. So thank you all for providing that insight. Thank you for sharing everything about your programs. And for our attendees for joining us today, again, you will get an email with our information. So if there are lingering questions that we weren't able to get to today, feel free to respond to that email directly and we'll send that over to our panelists for their help in responding. We are having our grad fair this Saturday. So if you happen to be in New York and you want to connect with folks directly, please do register and swing by on campus, on our main Manhattan campus on Saturday. And thank you all again so much for being here. We appreciate you and have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye, y'all. Thank
Everyone.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.